Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome in to this early, extra special edition of Snaps Live. As if you're watching on YouTube, you already know, youtube.com/@volumesnaps. You can see we are joined by one of our favorites and one of yours favorites, if you're listening to the show, likely. And that is the head AD, the president. I don't know what you want your title to be in terms of Pate State, but it's Josh Pate, Late Kick Josh. You already know, host of Late Kick Live, Late Kick Podcast, covers college football for CBS. He's all over the country. Noted member of the Corn Hub, one of the key supporters of the Hub, which, again, we were in a year early, but in investing, you always want to be early rather than late. So I think we're going to pay some dividends here. Josh, what's up, man? Thanks so much for joining us today.
I was talking to the folks at Nebraska yesterday. Of course, your name comes up as it always does in those circles. And
Look at that.
I am trying to make it up there. I've never been to Lincoln. I've never been to Nebraska. And I'm a storm chaser, which is embarrassing to note. So I got to get up there for multiple reasons this spring. But I'm trying to get up there and take the good word from Lincoln and then spread it across the land.
Well, I want to ask you that, Josh. Like, what is your – I know you're going to do a tour here soon. You get to some schools across the country. You go on you take the Pate State to different universities during the fall. Like, what is your spot you haven't been to yet that you're going to try to get to this year?
Oklahoma. Never been to a game at Oklahoma.
Whoa, nice.
So it's basically Lincoln, it's Nebraska, and then it's Oklahoma. Utah, I would have given you that answer last year, but we got there and we got to Washington. Basically, I just went up and down the West Coast and did last rites to many different places before they either went to a new conference or just faded off into the Pacific. So I don't know how I've avoided Oklahoma. I think it's because the Texas game's in Dallas every year because I've been to that one multiple times. But yeah, OU has always seemed like SEC to me. I grew up in the SEC, and so I want to try and get out there. But yeah, like Nebraska, I mean, if you grew up in the 90s, like I think all of us did, you always knew Nebraska as a superpower. And then through your teenage years and early adulthood, then they kind of fade from that. But you don't forget that stuff. You don't forget. And plus, you turn on a Nebraska game even when they're 4-8, and Scott Frost is walking the plank, and they're still sold out. So that's in a place.
No, I mean, the environment is second to none. It's why it's like one of the main reasons why I think they're going to be a big winner in this era, right? Because emotional buy-in becomes economic buy-in, all the things that we talked about in the past. Also, I'll still take Eric Crouch over Tim Tebow. Aaron, fuck you, dog. That's how I feel for life. Josh, you hit on a lot of stuff there that I think I kind of want to get into with you, and I hesitate to go so kind of sports talky here early on, but we're here in the 2020 forging, right, of college football, the reforging, and we are fully entering the mega conference age, and even the meetings that are going down right now might decide what that actually ends up looking like in a couple of years. But in your bird's eye view, as a man who did give last rites and has been all throughout the country, how do you feel about the age of the mega conference? From like a quality judge, like good or bad for the sport overall?
Yeah, not a massive fan of it. I want to try and be careful. You guys will notice this because you're a part of it just like I am. This time of year, since there aren't games going on, there always tend to be anywhere from 2 to 5 major stories out there. And if you're not a generalist, if you're college football specific, college football is all you talk about, it can become this echo chamber. Like right now, the whole plight of coaches thing. Everyone's got a take on it. So then you got 1 or 2 people who say, hey, coaches got it kind of rough here. Then you got the other side who just decides to default against it. Well, they're getting paid so much money. It's this echo chamber. And so it just sounds so redundant. So what happens, and what's really happening right now, if you're not careful, is you sound really doom and gloomish about the sport. Like if you share my perspective, I'm not the biggest fan with a number of things that are going on right now. I still think it's the best sport in the world. But there are not games happening. So if you're not careful, you can find yourself going 70, 30, 80, 20 negative. And all of a sudden your mom's texting you asking if you're all right. And you go, what is she talking about? It's been so sad lately. Are you okay?
Did your mom actually text you that?
Yes. So that's quality control in the business. That's what So look, if I could go back, I'd love to go back and have more regionality in the sport. I know we can. I'd love to. Now, this is me personally. Like I never really cared about the playoff. I never really cared about national championships so much. I loved the world where we didn't pretend let's say that all 130 teams were playing the same sport, because they never were. It was always done to pretend that. And all of a sudden you got 130 plus teams out there chasing one trophy, and they're being told if you lose a couple of games, your season's over and your games are meaningless. I'm the biggest fan of that. Basically what it all boils down to, semantics out of the way, we can disagree on individual things, is I'm not the biggest fan of the people who have their hands on the wheel of the sport right now. That's really where a lot of my discontent stems from.
I think that's well said, and I want to explore that. I think on the games not mattering front, the thing to me, I feel like we have a little bit of evidence with this now. The only bowl games that teams don't give a fuck about are the New Year's 6 games that aren't playoffs. Like if you look at Kansas State, what that win meant to them and the Pop Bowl, like all these other levels of bowls, like the players are still out there grinding, giving everything they have, the coaches, the fan bases. It's just like a couple of, now they're in the spotlight, so they probably get talked about a bit more. They should, but like, I still feel like the lower bowls still matter and people still care. So you talk about not being a fan of the leadership. Is that in that there's kind of no leadership? Is that in that you have conference leaders kind of like asserting themselves, taking control? Like how exactly do you mean by, what do you mean by that?
Just too many, the age-old adage of too many cooks in the kitchen. And no one's really tasked with looking out for the letters CFB. You know, people can love or hate Roger Goodell. People can love or hate team owners. But ultimately, they have to serve within the best interest of NFL or MLB. Those places have league offices. They have commissioners. You think of a central governing body when you think of those places. The letters CFB mean nothing. Both of you played the sport CFB. Yeah. Georgia and LSU are teams that play CFB. But where is CFB? Who is CFB? What is CFB? That doesn't exist. And as long as you don't have that, it's I was talking to Joe Tessitore because he does boxing a lot. He said, "Hey, welcome to boxing. This is what boxing has been forever. It's been these little fiefdoms all over the place, and you have 5 different world titles, and it's a miracle that a match ever gets in the ring because you have to have all these different promoters agree on this and that, and there's no centralized authority." So his point and my point is, once you get far enough down that road, you are inevitably headed further down that road, because the whole point that you're trying to make when you want a commissioner or you want a governing board is you have to have people with power give up their power. No one does that. I mean, no one does that. So I don't know. I also think this, though. If anyone complains about anything, eventually, if it starts hitting you on the bottom line, that's when action is taken. It just hasn't with college football. That means it hasn't gotten bad enough. I'm not doom and glooming us. Mom's text as we speak. Like, I'm not going down that road. But I just think that there is a critical point where people who didn't build a great thing but are in control of the great thing and start messing with the great thing, if they see it deteriorate in value, that maybe is when they lurch back. But do you guys, I'll just ask you this, because I was thinking about this yesterday. They're having these meetings right now about the future of the sport. Yeah. Do you think anyone in that room has talked about what's best for the players? And do you think anyone in that room has talked about maintaining the value of Saturdays in the fall? Because I don't think it's ever come up.
No,
I think it's money.
It's revenue share.
It's all money. It's all money. That's all it is.
But isn't that kind of like, isn't that kind of the American way, right? Like free market economics and letting the invisible hand kind of guide how this all goes sports wise. I mean, because it feels to me, and you never know with this shit, right? I'm wrong all the time trying to predict the future. It feels to me, though, that in this power vacuum, that it does kind of seem very well suited for Sankey and Petiti and their new alliance to make a move, to try to consolidate and to try to bring some of that singular vision that you're alluding to, Josh, kind of back to the sport potentially. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this. So I'm a free market absolutist. Like I'm a capitalist at heart, and economically, that's what I prescribe to. Yeah. We haven't had the free market in college football. No. And the free market principles are the worst nightmare of what we know as college football. I always make it analogous to this. So I live in Nashville. So we have a zoo here in Nashville. All right. There are animals at that zoo that otherwise would never find their way to Nashville. They're not native to our area. And if I snap my fingers and the fences disappeared, the penguins would be eaten or run over in traffic fairly quickly. But we, as a city, have decided, hey,
we don't want this little area or a nature preserve. We don't want this little area to govern under the same laws as the rest of the city. We as a people have decided we like this thing. We want this thing. The sporting public had to do that with college football.
Yeah.
It didn't and never did operate under basic free market principles. If it did, it's not that it would disappear, and it won't disappear now. But large swaths of it would disappear because it couldn't otherwise naturally exist. So you can either say, we want a special societal carve out for this thing, whether it be a sport or a nature preserve, or you can say, hey, screw it, man. Just let it be what it'll be. I've always thought that we could sort of overlap and have a little bit of both, but who knows? Maybe not.
So I think one thing we all can agree on, like it's not going backwards. We're not going back to BCSA, or we're not going back to two teams competing for a championship. And what you talked about earlier of you lose one game and essentially your season's done. The playoffs are happening. The discussion of maybe adding to a 14th team to the playoffs in 2 years is going to happen. We're getting to the SEC and the Big Ten being these two dominant conferences. Is it better just to fully rip the Band-Aid off now in the next 2 or 3 years, Josh, and just say, you know what? Let's throw Florida State and Clemson and Miami and the Carolinas and maybe a couple teams from the Big 12, and let's just make these essentially AFC, NFC, and just prop these two up even more than they already are right now.
I felt a few years ago like that was the ultimate end game. And from a logic-based standpoint, given where we are now and where we're headed, it does feel like that's far more logical. I almost find myself asking, if the Big Ten is what it is now and the SEC is what it is now, and we all know they've got teams knocking on the door wanting in every day, so they could be even more behemoth than they are right now. If that's the case, why would they sit in a room and say we even need to be in a playoff with the rest of you? And I'm thinking from a purely selfish standpoint. I put myself in their shoes. So I've always thought that was the natural conclusion here. And I almost wonder, I'm not in the room, but I almost wonder, why would a Tony Petitti or a Greg Sankey, knowing what they are and will become, even entertain auto bids or inclusion period for other conferences? Now, that sucks. To be clear, I don't want that. But I almost wonder if, I don't think Florida State's staying in the ACC. I don't think Clemson's going to be there in 5 years. So wherever they are, that further fortifies that conference and further, deludes whatever the ACC is left to be. I almost wonder if we have a 14 team or whatever playoff that has certain auto bid inclusion for those conferences. I wonder how seriously we'll take the product, if that makes any sense. Like if I watch LSU fight their way through the SEC and win that league championship, if I watch Oregon fight their way through the Big Ten, what those leagues will be, and win those championships, and then let's say what happened to FSU last year were to happen to one of those teams, and they all of a sudden are hobbled, and they go in and I don't know, you have an Oklahoma State beat them or like a Tulane beat them. I don't even know that I would look at that and take it seriously. That's just me talking. I would look at you having crawled over broken glass to win the most superior conferences in America, and then you get thrown in this random 3 or 4 additional game crapshoot that is not more impressive to me than what you did in the regular season. At that point, what are you trying to construct? And I don't know, because I've never seen it. So I'm doing the hypothetical game. I just wonder how seriously our minds will take that product when it's on the field.
Yeah, Troy the chat says, I see, it just feels like they're rushing out a new format. Last night's about 14 team for a 12 team playoff even took place. Let's slow down a bit. Okay, let's zoom back in then on the actual football. Next year, you do like a way too early top 25, and you already see what an insane offseason it's been, right? Alabama checking in at 9, 8, wherever you want to put him. Michigan all the way down to 13 now. Give me your favorites, dude. Who do you think? Outside of Georgia, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Georgia, the Bulldogs, the number one favorite. Outside of the Dogs, who you thinking actually is going to contend next year?
So as I sit up in my seat, I do want.
I thought that was a Roddy Piper shirt this whole time.
I just want them to be on the radar. Okay,
it's an Iowa State shirt for those listening on podcast
with a tornado on it. Yeah, so we've been down for a little while. I'm going to do like a lot of fan bases. I'm not saying we're going to make the title, but we can make the playoff. That's going to be the cry for pretty much half the country this year. Georgia, yes. Ohio State, absolutely yes. Yep. Bookmark that. I want to come back to that. Oregon, absolutely yes. Also bookmark them. I don't know what in the world to expect from Alabama. I don't think there's any skill in knowing that. And I pay attention to that program as much as anyone. I have no clue. Is Florida State just here now? DJ Uiagalelei comes in and people just kind of assume, well, they'll plug him and play him. Great if you do. Great if you do. I don't know what to assume about them yet. Is Clemson really just taking a permanent step back to tier 2? Or did they need to go through year 1 under Garrett Riley and go through the ups and downs? And are they athletic enough at receiver, which has been their biggest singular drop-off? I don't know. Texas is legit. I saw an opening point spread the other day of them versus Oklahoma, and it's like 10.5. So that's the perceived gap on a neutral field between those two right now.
That ain't good, bro. Not for Venables.
I'm trying to see if I can name every team in the sport, therefore leaving no one out.
That's kind of exciting, though, that you have this many answers to that, right?
Yeah, and Notre Dame, I'm going to talk about this on my show tonight. Notre Dame is, to me, the most bastardized / misunderstood brand, team, et cetera, in the sport. Penn State kind of is a minor league version of this. I cannot mention either one of them without the conversation turning completely insane. You mentioned Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I think, went 9-3 or 10-2 last year. They finished in the top 15. I think if I were to rank the program over the past decade or 15 years, I think they're in the 6 to 12 range, somewhere like that. Okay, you put them in there, and people call them overrated. At which point you say, what are they rated? And the person will shoot back, well, they couldn't touch Georgia or Alabama. Well, I'm not rating them above them. I actually have them behind those teams. So I'm asking you, if they're overrated, by default, there is someone rated behind them that belongs above them. And it's this massive circular descendance into hell, and you never end up getting a logical answer. It's the same thing with Franklin at Penn State.
He's overrated. Right on Penn State.
Overrated. Franklin's overrated. Well, who is he losing to? Yeah. Michigan and Ohio State. Well, they're rated above him. Who is he? He's not supposed to lose to, according to odds makers. Now, if you want to say you think Notre Dame should be better or Penn State should be better, okay, that's another conversation. They're not overrated. So anyway, like 10 minutes ago, we were talking about playoff teams. I think Notre Dame's a playoff team. I think Penn State might as well have personally built the playoff, because there are like 8 instances that they would have been in the past that they haven't been in. And so now James Franklin could not change a thing about himself. And all of a sudden, if you judge coaches based off playoff appearances and playoff appearances alone, he is going to elevate into stratospheres never before seen. And he's going to look around and say, what happened? I'm the same guy I've always been. What's happening?
I do want to bring up a team. I feel like you're a little bit higher on them than our boy T-Bob is. You were down there last spring, and that's Miami.
Oh yeah.
Can Miami
We're going to waste some of the few precious minutes we have on Mario Christofraud.
Yeah,
we're going to waste more precious minutes of the man with a 13-year sample size and a 500 record.
Your negativity.
Okay, I've leaned back. I mean, my body language is horrible. I have my arms crossed. I have a leg propped up. I want you, before I tell you my reasoning, T-Bob, if that's your name, I want you to tell me what you think of Miami. Are we talking team or program, like 2024?
I am using the basis of logic. Yes. I am using Mario Christofraud's overall head coaching record through a very large sample size. What are we? Let's do a little check. I'm guessing we're at 74 and 73 overall as a head coach. Let's see here. LoveSportsReference.com. 74 and 73, 13 years, boys.
Oh, that wasn't rigged at all. That wasn't.
No, it's because I talk a lot of shit. I talk a lot of shit, so I guess I had it buried in my mind somewhere. No, it's not about Miami. It's not about the potential of could they be back, could they not? I don't know. Maybe I don't. I just see a coach. I mean, they got what? They got 2 games better this year, game and a half. So
I do know that.
Maybe they're on the right path. I'm a hater until he proves me wrong. But I was a hater on Venables, and he kind of punched back at me last year. I was a hater on Sark. He definitely won that, right? He had never won 10 games. So Cristobal, you're next, dude.
Yeah. What I think about Mario Cristobal is it's not what you said, but it's not nearly as glowing as people make it out to be. I think he's a great acquirer of talent. And then I stop. I put a period on the end of the sentence. And I know what the follow-up is. There's going to be this army yell, well, yeah, but he's a recruiter, but he sucks on game day. Well, he hasn't won at the highest level on game day. But you mentioned Sark, which I'm glad you did. I'm a big believer that the words can't versus haven't are discombobulated and interchanged in this sport when they shouldn't
Well
be.
done.
A lot of folks have not done something, but that's different than cannot do something. So with Mario, like for instance, when we were down there this past spring, all he kept telling me is, "Hey, 2024, just give me to 2024, give me to 2024." Okay. Well, 2023 happened and they improved by 2 games. They still maintain that. Circle 2024 will be good, and that'll be the team. That's the one from thenceforth that we want to be judged on. So my theory on them is they're in better position than they have been from a roster perspective. They have an infusion of the donor class that they probably haven't had in several years. They are breaking ground on incredible facilities, so they got all that taken care of down there. The NIL game, they're not getting beat by anyone in. I think he is a great acquirer of talent who now has to prove it on the field. That's what I think about him. I just think that having the talent doesn't guarantee you're going to do anything. Not having the talent guarantees you're not going to do something. That's always been my philosophy.
Yeah. I love that can't versus haven't. I'm going to steal that. I mean, I'll credit you when I say it, but I like that. Like conceptually, it's an excellent way of framing it in your brain. You said you wanted to earmark Ohio State.
Yeah. Do you think that Ryan Day, do you believe in the intangible that some people throw around about him of he can't win the big game?
No, because he was a kick away from basically winning a natty 2 years ago.
Okay, I call that logic. To me, that is sound logic. I think that there are instances in our sport, Day is the most recent one. Kirby was this way for a couple of years.
True.
Until all of a sudden he broke through. But Kirby, I'm old enough to remember the 2019, 2020 years when people started to say, well, yeah, Kirby's good, but he's never going to get past Saban. Kirby's good, but he can't win a national title. He can't win the big one. And I just think Ryan Day is 5 years ago's Kirby Smart, running a dominant program, got a wonderful roster. He'll have his folks in position to take a swing at it every year. It's like a ladder match. They'll reach the top 3 rungs, so they are within reach of the belt every year. It's hard to grab it. It's just hard to grab it. So they're coming into this year, and his own fan base is buying into the idea that if we don't literally go wire to wire, it's a failure. We should explore making a change at the highest levels. And every time I broach that on my show, I always get coaches who don't coach for him who chime in and say, bro, you're so right. Like, we look at him and we think he's elite. We think he's the real deal. You got some folks in the Big Ten that hate him for other reasons. But I think there's a lot of jealousy that he's the one who got that job. And he's the one who was kind of gifted Ohio State. No one even knows what the guy's actual career and track record is. It's not like he was 23 years old. It's not like he was a broadcaster whose dad was a big deal, so he just gets handed the mic. That wasn't right.
Hold on now. As a Nepo baby that literally had that happen. Hold on now, Josh.
That hit close to home a little bit.
No, but look, I mean, your point is, I think it also kind of speaks to the power of rivalry for college football, right? You lose to Michigan a couple times, and all of a sudden, like,
a few times,
because he's the inverse of Cristobal. His overall coaching record's unbelievable.
That's a good point.
Just like 3 key losses, and all of a sudden, I don't know if he's the guy. You know?
Yeah.
What's the offense in your opinion going to look like? I mean, is you think Chip has full control, and we're going to see more of what Chip does offensively with the run scheme and kind of how he executes, or are we still going to see this is still Ohio State's offense, dominant quarterback, throwing the football down the field, even though you get a new OC and some great running backs?
I don't think it would be wise to inherit this year's team with Judkins and Henderson in the backfield and a new quarterback and losing guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. and looking around and saying, yeah, we're going to air it out. And I don't think that's what they wanted to do anyway. I think even if they had some of the same personnel there, they were probably going to look at just those 2 tailbacks alone and say, this is the way we're going to win. I've always wondered this. You guys didn't have to worry about this so much in Baton Rouge and Athens, but I've always thought to myself, if I ran a high-octane pass-first offense and I coached in Ann Arbor or Columbus or State College, one of these northern places, you practice in August and September to hopefully play meaningful games in early December, right? But the thing about it is it's so comfortable throwing the ball in 85-degree weather. You're trying to get to a point where it's 27 and windy. And I've always thought to myself, you're imprisoning yourself voluntarily at a place where you can play however you want to by running that kind of attack, knowing that by the time it gets to meaningful football late in the year, the conditions are going to be horrendous. And so when you got those two horses in the backfield, man, I think you'll probably, along with the defense they'll have.
Well, it seems like they're going more of the Alabama route, the Michigan route of like, hey, we tried this, it didn't work, and now it's time to mix it up a little bit, play great defense, run the football.
Yep, I agree.
A little toughness injected back in. Well, Josh, I know you got to go, man. Thank you so much for making some time with us. Again, I don't need to do this because, if you are listening to this, you definitely already listened to Late Kick, but check out Late Kick for sure. If you don't, Josh Pate, he's the man at Late Kick Josh on Twitter. Josh, thank you so much, brother.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Josh.
Take it easy. Real quick, we got more to get to, some NCAA football news, video game, but first, let's hear from our friends at DraftKings. Get in on the action with the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Check this out, guys. If you're a new customer, use the promo code T-Bob, T-B-O-B. You deposit $5 or more, you get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000, which if you lose, you'll get that money back in bonus bets, okay? So, for me, South Louisiana, I'm a massive Pelicans fan. The birds are hot right now. I'm playing props. I'm betting lines. But the point is, I'm supporting the birds. Like, you bet however you see fit. Your favorite NBA team, your favorite trends. It's all there for you. The place to play is the DraftKings Sportsbook. So, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code TBOB, T-B-O-B, and new customers get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 if your first bet loses. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code T-Bob. The crown is yours. Pate State, love him, Josh Pate. Hell yeah, that's always fun conversation, man. We could talk for hours and hours with that man. Can't versus haven't. Interesting. I could be a hater sometimes based on, using the past as an indicator of future result. I'm now going to start framing this as, do I think this guy can?
I don't think it's going to change your mindset for
not for
Mario.
Crystal Ball, not for Crystal
I
Ball.
think that ship
but
is sailed.
but with like Venables, although Venables had some bad missteps last year, he feels more like a guy who I would say could. Like maybe in the haven't situation. I don't know that I would have extended haven't grace to Sark last year, if I'm being objective with myself, right? I was such a hard Sark hater that I probably just had that one.
I think Day is in that category too. Like of there's so much hate.
I think Day is definitely
like Day is, yes, Day is 100% haven't. I think Day is, it's Kirby. He's knocking on the door. It can happen at any moment. It could happen next year. It could happen the year after that. Like he's right there. He is definitely in the haven't category.
It's losing. It's actually one of the great parts as we celebrate college football. It's losing your rival, right? I mean, like it just shows you how much it matters if you lose to your most hated rival, just how insane it messes with like people's brains. It just breaks them. Okay, let's play this game then. Lincoln Riley, can't or haven't?
Ooh. This is a fun game. Woo! Can't or haven't. Lincoln Riley can't.
Damn.
I'm gonna go with can't. Can't. You haven't seen, at least with Ryan Day. Like Ryan Day, we've seen Ryan Day understand. Like, okay, I have this elite offense, and I need to kind of put it all together. And then he went out there and he's created one of the best defenses in the country. It seems like all of it's finally probably coming at to a peak this year, most likely, with this elite defense coming back, all the pieces on offense. We're like, okay, this could be a championship. Lincoln hasn't proven to me that he could put together a championship defense to go along with the offense, and he's done it for a while now. So I just don't know if he could do it the whole shebang.
God, I feel like a prisoner of the moment because this is a guy that, again, 14 months ago would have been like, again, I know I'm probably beating this like a dead horse and people are sick about hearing if you listen to every show, but like I keep thinking of what USC fans were thinking the night of the Pac-12 championship, sitting there at 11-1, Heisman winner. The world was their oyster. They were about to get revenge on Utah and just everything has collapsed. So I'm actually going to take a more bird's eye view here. I'm going to be like you with crypto here. Okay. Yeah. I believe in the long-term viability of Lincoln Coin. And although Web3 may be in trouble right now, and it may be a ridiculous dream that the people in power would ever allow a fully democratized internet in which they would lose said power. I'm still going to bet on Lincoln Coin eventually figuring it out.
T-Bob says all this when he
I'm
has
say have
Bitcoin invested in Bitcoin. So don't you just act like I'm the only crypto F-boy over here.
I have like a little $30 buy that I did years ago, a month that just sits in the background. It's not a big deal. I'm going to say have it.
Okay, I'm going to go to your boy, Brian Kelly.
I you could call me biased, but I think this is a clear haven't situation. Yes. I think he was dealing with a bit of a glass ceiling at Notre Dame. I think obviously LSU has proven since the last 3 coaches won Natty that there is no glass ceiling there. And I mean, look, I cover the program very closely. So like I've really seen the areas in which they've improved and everything else. I believe in the vision. Yeah, I think this is way more haven't than Lincoln. Like Lincoln, no. you might be right on Kent. This is a pure haven't.
This is 100% haven't. He's been to the championship. He's been to the playoffs. Past 3 LSU coaches have won national championships. He's in a spot that you can win. I think Brian Kelly's the top 5 coach in this game. I think it's due at some point over the next 5 to 7 years.
Sports Bear says T-Bob 100% has some game coin for Moscona. I may have invested in some game coin, which again, I know all crypto is basically a pyramid scheme, but I thought I was close enough to the top of the pyramid where I could take advantage of others, but no, turns out I was the mark the entire time. What are you going to do? Okay. Mario Cristobal. I say can't.
I'll say can't. And are we saying haven't or can't in a sense of win a championship? Is that what we're kind of basing this off of? Are we saying
I'm not pure championship. I would say being like consistently championship relevant. Well, but it's different for different guys. With Kelly, I would say it has to be a championship.
I would say it has to be a championship.
With Lincoln, I think right now it maybe has to prove it probably has to be a championship, but maybe just like if USC's like year to year viable playoff ready again, then he'd probably check the box. Cristobal, that's the bar. Can Miami actually have a return to power?
Lincoln was at Oklahoma in a weaker conference when Texas was down. I mean, they were the big boys of the Big 12.
Yeah.
I mean, who was the true competitors for Oklahoma during his tenure? I mean, he had superior talent in Texas. Like I said, the Longhorns were kind of wandering the desert trying to find their identity. And now he goes to a conference that has some pretty big boys a part of it with Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and Oregon and Washington. Like, I just think that his opportunity to get to that championship and win the championship is past him. I just don't think he's going to get an opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I think it's well said. Deion Sanders, can or have it? I'm going to say have it just because it's too early, but I still don't.
I would say haven't. I'm going to say can it Colorado haven't as it personally.
Wow, look at you, bro. That's good. That's good gamesmanship right there. I'd say it's pretty spot on. Yeah. Okay, that was fun. Shout out PG thinking on the fly there. Okay, let's get into some NCAA football news. So as of today, every FBS football player, of which I think there is 11 million. Oh, excuse me. No, my bad. Hold on. 11,000 can choose to opt in to the new video game. If you opt in, your likeness is in the game, and you'll receive $600 and a free copy of the game, which is going to be valued at $70, right? We're seeing video games move from 60 to 70. I have thoughts on that. They should, right? I mean, or probably, right? I mean, like, they were $60 in 2006. It's like we've seen hyperinflation everywhere else. Like eventually a game's got to get bumped up to 70. So 11,000 players, $600. It's only about like a $6.6 million price tag actually for EA, which is not bad. But like we talked about, I think EA is kind of in the driver's seat here because
people are going to buy the game regardless.
Yes. And the players want to be in it.
Regardless.
And the players want to be in it as well. So if it's like, okay, I don't get to be in the game, I don't get the game for free, I don't get $600, or I do get all this, like, I don't care if I'm a superstar, I'm probably still taking that.
Yes. No, I would take it for free. I mean, to be honest, like, if you had an opportunity to be in the game and be a part of the first year back in over a decade, $600, great. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll go take, some nice dates or take the boys out, take the offense line out to dinner. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But to be a part of the game, to be in the game, to be able to play the game once again, I think pays for itself, to be honest. I think it's great that they're getting paid for it, but I think that's secondary. So if you ain't signing the damn thing, you're an idiot.
Yeah, it's like whatever. Like nobody's gonna care. Like it's the ship of Theseus sails on. PG was being in the old games, Cooler's big deal to y'all. Hell yeah, dude, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up loving those games, so being in them was sick. Now I did.
How would you do a player who is like
this
idiot? Well, they did come out with this too. There is a pot that they're going to use most likely on the bigger players to have side deals where those players can get essentially endorsement deals from EA to promote the game on social media, on campus, wherever it may be. So like the big boys are going to maybe get a little bit more money. But what would your thought process be if we are at Georgia and Carson Beck says, no, I don't want to be part of the game?
Again, I mean, it doesn't like it's as a consumer, you're saying as a consumer,
it's a consumer, as a
I'll just fucking create a player and name him Carson Beck.
True.
I don't give a fuck. As a teammate, I don't care because I don't know. Like sometimes I did so much college football while playing college football that I didn't want to go home and play a college football video game. Like in a weird way, my least amount of college football fanhood was when I was actively engaged in college football. Like the farther I get away from it, the more I fall in love with it all over again. We also know now that transfer portal NIL will be in the game, of course, right? Conference realignment will be in the game, which I think is interesting because it does show you the depth to which they are trying to produce, or kind of like we said, they have to get this right. There has to be a ton in this. Create a player will be in the game. What does it mean? But you can't create opted out players. I don't know exactly what that means. But yeah,
coaches will not be in the game, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just that's I mean, exactly, because who are the actual stars of college football are the coaches, and who are the actual people whose likenesses would cost the most money? It would be the Kirby Smarts of the world who make $10 million.
Yeah. PG made a good point in our side chat here, and I don't know if this is 100%. Maybe it means that you can't make Carson Beck if Carson Beck does opt out.
Yeah, but that sounds so crazy. I'll make, I'll make Carson Beck with a K, know? Like, what's it going to be, like a spelling thing? Like, I don't.
Someone comes knocking on your door like, hey, we saw you created Carson Beck. He is not allowed in the game. You will delete that immediately. Here's your $70 back, and we're going to take the game back.
He's not in the game. I mean, bro, I used to sit there NCAA 04. I remember sitting there with an LSU media guide and going player by player and custom putting in all of the LSU players' names. I mean, so like the point of that being, if you want it, you can have it. So they're gonna have playoff conference realignment, gonna be customizable. That's cool, man. It says it should be. I can't wait. Everything I hear about it makes me more excited.
Can we get sponsored, PG?
By NCAA?
Sponsored. Yeah.
Maybe so.
We're gonna play the game. We're gonna stream it. We need a sponsorship. Yeah, can we ask Scales?
Ask Sales.
David Pollock gonna be in it. Is that weird?
No, I mean David Pollock's still, a main college football contributor.
I wonder what they're gonna have him in. Like he's not gonna be like working with Herb
Well, they don't have the ESPN licensing though, right? Like, do they get and I'm not sure what the latest is. I actually want to look this up because if they do, that'd be awesome because then you could do college game day. Like if they did virtual college game day, that would be sick. But if they don't have the ESPN licensing, then I just think, I don't know, you get a Pollock as one of the announcers. I think I heard there's maybe a few announcers.
Jesse, I think Palmer's going to be.
That makes sense. If Jesse Palmer's beautiful. I'm reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is like a female fantasy type, romantasy type deal. And every guy in it is just described as being so fucking hot. And in my head canon, it's just like Henry Cavill and Jesse Palmer running around and like looking smokily at each other. It's pretty good though. Make you a little horny. Good fantasy too though. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. Is anybody, Aaron, is your phone working today? That's not like a shot at texting or anything. I literally mean like
no, there's
a bunch of people.
phones are not working across the country.
Or is yours? Mine's not working at all. It's crazy.
Mine is working.
It is.
Well, maybe it's working only on Wi-Fi.
Well, no, on Wi-Fi works. Wi-Fi works.
Yes.
I'm talking about like LTE. Like mine will not call
I don't know.
or anything.
I don't know.
Well, it will say you won't see any bars. If you have bars on your phone, you have it. Mine just says SOS, no bars.
Oh, I hate the SOS.
But it's crazy because like I was reading this sci-fi series Hyperion recently, and it's like an old series, and they try to predict what it's going to be like in the internet, and they get a lot of stuff funnily wrong. But one thing they talk about is when you're kind of disconnected from what they call the data sphere and how kind of lost you feel, bruh. Just driving to work.
Have you seen the Netflix movie
with no Wi-Fi and no LTE? It felt fucking weird. And I swear, people were losing their mind, dude. Interstate traffic was horrible. People were driving in circles. Nobody knew what to do.
Did you not see have you not seen the latest Netflix movie about this? Kind of the end of the world?
No, I'm terrified of shit like that.
Yeah,
I haven't seen
it. Pretty interesting.
What's it called?
Like Tesla cars are driving themselves and crashing into things, and it just.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like exactly. What happens? Like, what's to stop that from happening when I have my self-driving car? I didn't need to think about that. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Anymore.
I tried turning it off and turning it back on too, PG. It didn't work for me. I don't know why. Have you watched Leave the World Behind? I have not. I'll tell you what I'm getting excited for. Dune 2, boys. Let's go. The reviews are in and they are fantastic.
Not out till November though. Right?
Kellen Johnson says they said that the replacement players are not editable. Oh, I see. If you opt out, I get it. So sorry, my bad, Aaron. So if you opt out, and then like the player that comes on that roster, you cannot edit. But I wonder if I could just edit the player behind him or just edit a new guy and put him on. I'm not sure. No, I think Dune comes out like in a week or two in March, right?
What?
Yeah. There'd be if it was November, March 1st. We out here, bro. Yeah, we're a week away, dog. It's time to crank it up and watch old Timothy Chalamet do his Paul Atreides thing again.
I'm about to get Sharon to watch part 1 again now before it's off on Netflix for free.
Wait, what? I think it's on Max. I think too. Because it's Warner Brothers. So if you want to rewatch it, go check out Max, which I think Max is the best adult streaming service. Disney Plus maybe for kids, even though Netflix and Amazon have had some good shows lately. All right. That'll do it. After all that gumbo I ate last night, Aaron, my asshole kind of looks like the mouth of the sandworm. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like staring you in the face, ready to swallow you up. All right. That was the last one. Y'all have a great day. We love you so much. I'm T-Bob Hebert. He's Aaron Murray. Thank you to Josh Pate. Huge thank you to Chris Chan, PG, Danny Cardenas, the whole production team over at The Volume. The biggest of all thank yous to everyone who hangs out with us every day in the chat, hits the like button, shares it with their friends. If you listen on Spotify or Apple, rate and review it. All of this stuff really helps us, y'all. We love you, and we will be back. Remember, every day, youtube.com/@VolumeSteps has uploads. We will be back live on Monday. So have a great weekend, and we'll see you there.